Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the DucksNPucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard, and we have tons to talk about with the Ducks. They are on a 3-game winning streak. We have more action going on with the players, some good stuff going on with the team, some so-so stuff going on with the team. We'll break all of that down. Some more discussion about Gibson. We had the Spittin Chiclets weighing in about Cronin, which I'm very passionate about, so we'll dive into that too. Lots of stuff to get to this, but before we do all that, we have to do our little pregame. Eddie, what are you drinking?
I have my Happy Dad I'm drinking right now, the grape one, which says Death Row Record. So that's I'm a little stuffed up and congested right now, so I really can't enjoy the flavor fully, but it'll get me through the show, get me through the week, having nice beers and some shots. So how about you? Let me guess, the vodka seltzer?
Yeah. Well, actually, it's the Jocko again, which, again, it's not a sponsor of the podcast, but vodka Jocko, there's a bunch of them. You can check them out. A lot of different flavors, very good. So I did do that. I am a couple deep, I will admit. So if I'm a little slurry on this podcast, I apologize. But I'm very happy right now with the way that the Ducks are playing, which we'll dive into in just a second. And I like what's going on right now. So I'm in a very happy mood. Today is also my Friday. I finished up. I had a week of training. So I'm happy. I've got a 3-day weekend ahead of me. Looking forward to this game with the Ducks and the Sabres as well. So a lot of good stuff going on. But yeah, I did that. And just a reminder too that this podcast, we're part of the Old City Sports Network. We got all the sponsors down there, the real sponsors, not Jocko, the real sponsors in the description box. We also have RighteousFelon.com beef jerky, very, very good. Check them out. OCS in for a discount, and the other discount codes are also down in the description box. So, all right, let's dive into these games, Eddie. The Ducks, the homestand wasn't the greatest, but they finished on a high note. A game that I was at with my better half. The Ducks ended up beating the Red Wings 6-4. The Ducks scored right away. Zellweger is doing fantastic lately. Added him to my fantasy team. I did post about that, just letting you all know because he was available. Scored early in this game, but then the Ducks got into a lot of penalty trouble. Gave up some goals while shorthanded. Detroit ended up going up in this one 3-1 in the second period, and I sat there during the game and I thought, oh no, here we go. We're down 3-1, and things are going to look rough. But we had Zegras getting a goal in the second period, getting the Ducks back in it. And then the Ducks went on a tear. Gauthier got a goal. Finally, his first NHL goal in this one. The Ducks were able to, go ahead. Detroit did, try to fight back, but the Ducks ended up winning this one 6-4. And outside, I guess, of the home opener, I really felt, man, this game was an exciting game. From start to finish, it looked like the Ducks were going to do well in the beginning, and then Detroit had the momentum. The Ducks got it back in the second period and then pulled it out in the third, Eddie. This was a super exciting game. Gibson also is back, as you know. He won his second start in this one. He's actually won all 3 of his starts this season. But a super exciting game. And it's always good to beat the Red Wings. Of course, you know that they were big rivals with the Ducks back in the 90s in the playoffs and whatnot. So what a great game. What a great win. Way to finish the homestand.
I think this game had everything you wanted in a game. I wish I were there. I was actually in Arizona, took a trip over there. So I was able to use DraftKings and did a straight money line bet on the Ducks beating the Red Wings, and I won. So I was more happier with that. But yeah, everything you wanted from this team, it showed in that game. Gibson's back, been starting great. Hopefully his trade value is going to go up, which we'll talk about later. Just the offense clicking with all the Ducks. Some of our young guns, too. The first, second, and third stars are all our rookie players, our young gun players, with the Zally leading it with the first star, Cutter the second, and then Hallison with the third. So that I guess that Josh Manson trade kind of paying off for the Ducks, with Hallison performing with the 2 assists that he had. But yeah, I think the only thing this game was missing is a couple goalie fights or a big old brawl. But other than that, the Ducks had no fight, or they had to fight in with them, and they didn't go down without a fight. And I'm glad because I won money. All the fans that were at the game got to see an amazing game. I hope the game that we go to next, Mike, is just as amazing as this one.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a lot of that coming up. We'll talk about. We got a question too about Thanksgiving. Towards the end of the show, we'll kind of talk about our plans during Thanksgiving. There's a little change up going on because I will be going to Arizona too, but we'll be back and we'll be at one of those games too, and we'll go into that. But yeah, you're right. This game had like almost everything in it, other than like a big time fight. But I did love the fact that there were a bunch of Detroit Red Wings fans there. And when Strome scored into the empty net, they all hit the exits. And, Eddie and I were talking before the show. I was like, damn it, I should have recorded that. But I loved it. They were all leaving. My better half, she was really into it. She was yelling to him, bye, have a safe trip home. My wife, I love her, man. She can't stand when there's obnoxious fans from opposing teams at the pond. She gets amped up, and so when we won that game, especially being down 3-1, I was cracking up. I was like, oh damn, she's giving it more to them than I was. and I used to be the super rowdy one at the games, and I'm now a little bit more mellow. I guess I should say, depending on how much I drink, or if I'm with Eddie, then Eddie and I, we do our thing. But.
Oh yeah, it's zero decorum whatsoever.
Yeah, right, zero decorum. So I mean, it was great. I was happy. The Ducks 2 for 4 on the power play. That's one thing that they've been doing better at. You had 13 different players had a point in this game. Coming from behind was a huge thing too. It's just kind of a theme lately. The Ducks did that against the Red Wings. They also did that against Chicago, which we'll talk about in a minute. Something that we said that was missing with this team, the comeback kids. We haven't seen that. If they're losing by a few goals, they usually end up losing, or if they're trailing starting the third period, they usually lose. But not the case in these last 3 games. They were trailing heading into the third period against Detroit and Chicago and won both those games. So super exciting stuff going on in this game. And then you had them go on the road for this quick back-to-back road trip in Dallas and Chicago, and the Ducks pulled out both of these games. Again, Zellweger scoring this game against the Stars. You had Leeson, who we talked about. I mentioned don't sleep on Leeson back in September. He's got 7 points in his last 5 games. I mean, he's been killing it, been playing well. And Cutter scored again. The Ducks were up 3-0 in this game. The first half was really all Ducks. The second half, Dallas did really fight back. But you had some guy named Lucas Dostal that was killing it in this game. There were a couple post shots that did help him out. And Dallas, they had one of those special series games in the season. But in American Airlines Arena, they were undefeated. They had won 7 games. And the Ducks ended up handing them their first true home loss this season. So a really good, feel-good win in this one, Eddie, against the Stars, who the Ducks have had a hard time trying to beat them in Dallas.
Yeah, well, Stars are playing some pretty good hockey. They're primed for a playoff run. So beating this team, that's great. We get a little streak going on. We don't have to be at the bottom of the barrel fighting it off with the Predators, with the San Jose Sharks, with the Blackhawks, and who's going to get that first overall. So it's good to see the Ducks get some momentum and have everyone start clicking more, having more for our young guns too. Cutter, didn't I say too? Once that first goal comes, the floodgates are going to open. You mentioned too the catch-it bottle, so that was a really good one to see, and hopefully it just starts exploding the offense because this team has potential. And I'm not saying this team's going to go on a crazy run and make the playoffs, nor do I even want them to make the playoffs because they're not a playoff team. But seeing this glimmer of hope, we can see what the future holds for us. It has to make any Ducks fan happy.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one question we had too from Sir Burke 21. Are the Ducks good? I would say yeah, the Ducks are good. I mean, they've been better in these last 3 games. Are they a playoff team? Are they a contending team? Eddie and I have said that a lot of times. No, they aren't. But they're playing better hockey right now. A lot of things are going right in their way. We had Chris J. Campos. He sent us a lot of questions on Instagram. I only pulled out a couple, but he talked about this 3-game winning streak. What are you noticing that's different? And a lot of it is the scoring around the team. Cutter getting in there. Ducks scoring on the power play. They come from behind to beat Detroit. They come from behind to beat Chicago too. You had Sam Colangelo. He came up, made his season debut in this game, and in this one, Chicago actually scored first. You had Anaheim get a goal then by Minty right away. That Chicago took a lead again in the second and held that lead to the third, but then the Ducks came back. You had Carlson scoring in there. You had Killorn as well. Killorn's been playing better too. He's got 5 points in his last 4 games. You had Gibson in net, like we said, has won 3 of his first 3 starts. So you got a lot of stuff going right for this team right now. You got Dostal and Gibson, who are both on fire. I think the defense has been playing a little bit better. You have Hellison in there with Dumoulin. They've been playing great. Fowler's been out, which I kind of think's helped the team. Sorry, Cam, I love you, but I think with him out, the Ducks defense has actually been better. So there's a lot of things going right for this team. They're not great. They're 8-2, but they're playing better. They're playing with heart, which is a big thing. Eddie and I talk about some of those intangibles. You look at all the advanced stats and some of the basic stats and things like that, which, we feel that every stat's important. But I like what I'm seeing with this team. I feel like, any situation right now, at least in these last 3 games, they can handle it. They had a lead against Dallas. They were able to hold on after they got, kind of stormed in that third period by the Stars, and then they're behind at home against Detroit and behind on the road in Chicago, and they're able to come from behind. So I feel like they're gelling a lot better right now, Eddie. I mean, like I said, not going to be a great team, but they're definitely looking good as of right now.
Yeah, you get the smile. Hopefully they can bring this momentum on the games that we go to, selfishly speaking, because I want to see them get some dubs when I'm at Honda Center. I can't recall the last time I went to Honda Center and saw a Ducks win. It's always been kind of a bad. I think we're kind of bad luck, but yeah, this team's starting to gel with everyone producing. Gibson 3-0. I wonder if he keeps playing like this. It's gonna just increase his trade value because we see the potential. Imagine if he played in front of a team that's better defensively and that's ready to make that playoff push to a Stanley Cup. But then another question I had too, Mike. This 4 Nations tournament. I wonder if he'll get any consideration being one of the goalies that can probably sneak in there. I'm not saying he'll be the starting goalie, but I wonder if his performance, if he keeps this up, if he'll be in talks to be representing the U.S. In this 4 Nations tournament.
Yeah, you make a good point. I mean, Gibson's on fire right now. I mean, he's been playing really, really well. I don't know. I don't know who they've got lined up. There's been some posts about that, and they haven't decided apparently yet who's going to be in it or not. But I mean, he's come back from this appendix surgery, and I mean, he's come back, making a statement right now. Winning those 3 games, his goals against is 2.67, his save percentage is .906. I mean, he's looking good. You can't deny it right now. And yeah, you mentioned some of the stuff, which I'll hold off because we'll talk a little bit about Pierre LeBrun and his article and whatnot with where. There's some teams looking for goalies out there, and I know some of you are going to be like, "Hey, we've talked about this for the last 5 years." I know, but we'll talk about it in a little bit. But why not give him consideration? And then some of the other good things in here too. You've got Carlson's now got 4 game-winning goals as a teenager. That's the most in franchise history. It was Fowler that had 3 before. Another good point in there. So a lot of good, feel-good stuff with this team. Carlson is tied with Terry in goals. You got Killorn's coming on. Leeson's coming on. Dostal's playing well. Gibson's playing well. I mean, there's a lot of positive stuff with this team right now. And I know it's only 3 games. I know it's early. We're 8-2. But Eddie and I talked about this team and where they would be. And we said that, hey, they're not a contending team. They're not a playoff team. But they could end up around 500. And that's where we're at right now. I mean, it's a small sample size, 18 games. We're almost a quarter of way in the season, but I think I like what I'm seeing with this team. We talked about on the last show to have a little bit of patience and that they were making improvements. And so far I like what I'm seeing, Eddie. I think that they can keep on improving. I don't think the sky is the limit, unfortunately. I don't see how high that they're going to go. Making the playoffs or whatnot, but it's definitely a welcome sign to see them playing more competitively, playing in a team, and now winning some games.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. Like I said, selfish me. Just I hope they bring that momentum come when they play the Kings Black Friday game because I'll be at that game. And thank you for the tickets, but I really want to go and see a big Ducks win day after Thanksgiving when I'm either hungover and stuffed with turkey. But getting a win, seeing that in person, I'm bringing one of my friends too, so I'm sure she wants to see that win as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned seeing the Ducks games in person. That kind of brings me to our first sponsor of Game Time. They have great deals on tickets. Going in person, watching the game. Eddie and I have talked about it. If you have not gone in person to watch the hockey game, it is phenomenal. It's the best thing to experience. They have a lot of great deals right now. So you want to check out gametime.co, not .com. So gametime.co is their website to look for tickets. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem a code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. And if you're looking for tickets for that Black Friday, there's a lot of good deals on there. I'd go check them out. Eddie mentioned it. I will be in Arizona, so I won't be there. Eddie will be at that game, but then we will be at the following game, you and I, against Ottawa on Sunday. So we're very excited. A lot of good stuff coming up here with these games. But talking about the Ducks, we can kind of break down like what's going on lately. Like why are they doing better or what's going on? They've actually won 4 of their last 5 games. They've outscored the opponent 19-13, so it's not too crazy. We did mention Leeson with 7 points in the last 5 games. I talked about not sleeping on him on social media back in September. So, that's the good news. Some bad news, I guess, is the injury stuff. We found out Fabry had to have surgery on his knee. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. Fowler's on the IR, out 2 to 4 weeks. And then McTavish was on the IR, but he was also back at practice. So, not really sure what's going on with him. I don't know if maybe he was hurt earlier in the season or whatnot, but there's some of the injury stuff going on. In terms of, the way the Ducks are playing on goals and special teams, they're up to over 2.5 goals a game, which, before they were barely over 2, so they've improved that. Goals against is still 3. Power play is around 15%, which is a lot better. You've got Zellweger there as the quarterback. They've done better. Obviously, the first couple weeks they were at 0 and they weren't scoring, so that's been better. The PK has not been as good. It's a little bit under 70% now, which is really not good. You want to be up closer to 80%. But what do you think, Eddie? What are you seeing? Throw out some stats or some of the injuries. How do you think about this team? I mean, like we said, 8-8-2. Mostly good things, but not so good on the penalty kill and some injuries and whatnot. But I would say more positive than negative. Recently at least.
Yeah, finally we could get some more positive outweighing the negative. But it's baby steps. It's not going to happen overnight. We want these to just improve with time, and hopefully they can just keep building off of that. One thing we forgot to mention too, I was going to bring up when we were talking about the games. One, they're still really horrible in the face-off circle, and that's. I don't know how I can stress that, how important that is to get the draw, control it either in your own zone or the opposing zone to create those opportunity chances. But that's something that the Ducks have to figure out and improve on. If they do, I think these goal numbers are going to be a lot higher. The goals against might go down too if they're winning the draws in their own end and kind of making the opposing team kind of fight for it, not just get an easy win, shoot, and possibly score. So, but yeah, you know what? We can have a smile on our face. We can leave. I guess this podcast off with a positive note with all the excitement in the last few games and what we've seen the product on the ice. It's finally a winning product on the ice that you want to go and be proud of and not just sit there and having to drink your life away because you're upset and going crazy about being a Ducks fan.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. That face-off thing I crack up because they've done better winning. The face-off percentage still hasn't been there. They're still, I believe, last in the league. Yeah, they're still last. They're at 42%, which isn't great. Zegras has gotten a little bit better in the face-off circle, and there's a lot of debate out there, too. We asked a poll question about whether you guys thought Zegras should be center or wing. I think the poll we put out on X, I want to say it was like 65-70% of you said that he should be at center by the way that he has been playing. And I mean, I look at that line right now, the Zegras, Carlson, Killorn line, and they're doing fantastic. I mean, they really chipped in that game against Chicago. They factored in on most of the goals in that game. They really shut down the Blackhawks in that game. They're playing well offensively and defensively. And you have Carlson, who's been kind of iffy in the faceoff too. So him and Zegras are kind of going back and forth, and you got Killorn in there. But they've been playing great, so I like what I see in there. You've got Vetrano, Strome, and Terry together. They've been doing okay as well. Gauthier on the third line with Lundestrom and Leeson. Leeson has really picked it up. 2 goals, 5 assists in the last 5 games right now. So, I mean, he's been doing fantastic. You also had the Ducks brought up Harkins. Harkins has been very good in the faceoff circle. He's on the 4th line. And then you've got Johnston and Colangelo. McGinn has been hurt. You saw him take a spill into the boards there in those recent games. So he's had that, he's been out, unfortunately. So you've had them filling in with Johnston and Colangelo on the 4th line. But, I like what I'm seeing. The faceoffs haven't been great, but... And the puck possession's been kind of so-so too. If you look at those numbers, natural stat trick is very good on that. The Ducks have been kind of 44% in the faceoffs. I'm sorry, in the puck possession, which they were very good against Chicago. They actually had a really good game in that one, being over 50% and playing well. So we need more games like that. But I like what I'm seeing defensively. You've got Zellweger's just killing it on the power play now. That's really helped those numbers. You've got Dumoulin and Hellison together who have looked great. And then Lacombe, he even got a big goal in there too on that road trip. And then you've got Gudis and Minty who have been doing well too. So I like what I'm seeing right now. It seems like finally, Eddie, maybe the lineup's kind of coming together. Zegras, Carlson, and Killorn together. Vetrano, Strome, and Terry together. You got Gauthier on that 3rd line. It's kind of, I like what I'm seeing, this current lineup. Very similar practice lines the last couple of days, too. I think they're finally starting to get that chemistry and gel together and with these forwards. And that's a big key. I mean, you look at the way the Ducks have been playing, and they've been scoring goals, right? It's been huge. They got 6 goals against Detroit. You got 4 goals in Dallas, and then 3 against Chicago. So I think we've talked about this too. That usually the number 3 is kind of the magic number. You get 3 or more goals, you usually win games, and the Ducks won all 3 of these. So I kind of like what I see, and I think they're kind of finally gelling and finding their game amongst the forwards.
Yeah, it's good to see. It was kind of frustrating with Cronin and how the lines were just mixed up all the time. It was no consistency. It was like you pull a name out of a hat and that's who's going to be playing on this one. It was just getting annoying, but it's good to see some more consistency with these lines. That's how you build chemistry, and that's how you kind of learn the style of who you're playing with, and everything will just try to translate easily on the ice when you do have that chemistry with them going on. I do like the defensive lines too. Like you said, they are playing better without Fowler in the lineup, but the only issue is he's on the trade bait too. We need him back in the lineup to get his increase. What's the word I'm looking for? My guy totally forgot. Increase his trade value. There we go. But I do like seeing what I'm seeing with these defensive lines too, because that's the issue we have. Is Ducks have been horrible defensively in the last 2 or 3 seasons, always giving up the most shots and the most goals. But it's good to see that things are gelling and clicking. And like you said, don't sleep on Leeson too. That's good that a player like him is really stepping into his game and stepping up, providing that offensive spark that we need when other players sometimes aren't really feeling it offensively.
Yeah, I think that's been the key with this team. If you look at it, it's who's contributing, right? You've got Killorn now, 5 points in 4 games. You got Leeson, 7 points in 5 games. You're getting contributions from other players. Even Johnson scored a goal, in these last couple games. I mean, you've got all these people. Gauthier's gotten 2 goals, so you've got these guys scoring. Zegras, maybe starting to find a little bit. Got that goal in there too. Carlson and Terry still leading the way. So I like what I'm seeing with this team. I think we had Maverick87 on Instagram ask, is Leeson the new Cogliano? I don't know if he is or not, but I do like the Gauthier, Lundy, Leeson line. they seem to be a very, very balanced line. They're able to, generate chances offensively while not compromising defensively. So I like that line. I like the top 9, really. I like how it is right now. You do have McTavish that's been skating, could come back. He was on the 4th line, on these last practice lines. Kind of makes, like we said, makes me wonder, what's kind of going on with him, if he's injured or whatnot. But if he has to go to the 4th line, I guess it is what it is. I'm not a big fan of it. I'd like him maybe on that 2nd or 3rd line, but the way that the team is going right now has been good. They're playing better. They're playing with passion. They're able to come back from behind. They're able to hold leads. They still need to do some work. Obviously, they're giving up some chances, like we said in that game against Dallas. I thought Dallas really could have come back and tied that game up. They had some post shots in that one that made it a little hair raising in that game. But I like what's going on. I like that they brought up Colangelo too. We talked about that before. Like, hey, bring him up. He's got the most goals, and they did. So I was happy about that. They did bring up Hines for a brief second and then sent him back down. So I don't know what's going on with that. We still got Vakanainen is out as well, so I don't know when he's going to come back. But maybe they think he's closer than he, farther away or whatnot. So maybe that's why they sent Hines back down. So a lot of good stuff. I like what I'm seeing with this team. I think it's exciting to see how they've been playing. These last 3 games have been great. It's a small sample size, but you win these games, you keep going. You've got very winnable games coming up here in the next week or so. So I'm excited. I'm very happy. I think that the Ducks are doing much better than what maybe some people anticipated. And I like what I'm seeing right now. They're still a work in progress, obviously, as we've talked about. They still have some things. Puck possessions kind of needs a little bit of work. Faceoffs needs work. The penalty kill needs work. There's all these stats that we talk about, and I don't value one stat by itself, but as a whole, I think they're still pushing the needle in the right direction, Eddie.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. I like seeing on the Ducks, their stats, their top 40 points. You have a lot of our young kids in there. I mean, even with McTavish still not playing as well this season as everyone hopes he is, he's still up there with points, tied for 4th on the team with 8 points, which is not a lot given what other teams' stars can do. But like you said, it's a work in progress. Maybe something's going on with him. He hasn't really looked like himself all season. It seems like there might be an issue that we don't know about. And hopefully he gets that fixed. And like you said, if he does come back, he has to be on the 4th line. You don't want to screw up the top 9, how good they've been playing. It's just kind of you're going to be one of those things where you just kind of like SOL until you shuffle the lines up again to get something else, or he just starts getting going on that 4th line. And maybe taking some of the pressure off of him, throwing him on that 4th line will help. I think it helped Cutter by taking him down to the 3rd line. I wasn't a big fan of them starting him off with the top line minutes, going against the team's best players every night. So I think it was a good call. Let him get his confidence, let him find his game, and the rest will come. And it's been coming for him too. 2 goals already, and he's getting up there with points too. So I'm glad seeing what I'm seeing. And then we have Harkins too. I think he was leading the goals and scoring too. So that's another offensive person that can contribute given the right opportunity.
Yeah, I think Colangelo had the most goals, but you're right, Harkins was up there too in points. So you brought 2 guys up to help out, and they've been doing well, and Harkins has been doing well in the in the faceoff circle. So another added bonus there as well. Kind of brings me to my the next sponsor for us too. We have Raycon. We talked about Black Friday is upon us. I don't know. I bought a few things on Amazon recently, but you can get amazing deals with audio every day of the year. But that doesn't mean you can't have those sales on Black Friday as well. They're doubling down on their amazing value by offering viewers up to 30% on their website. It's time to save big for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Go to raycon.com/THPN today to get up to 30% off site-wide. That's right, you can get up to 30% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/THPN. So check them out. They're another good sponsor for us as well. And like I said, we're also part of the Hockey Podcast Network. We're happy to be part of them. So check them out as well. So some of the other stuff that came up, I guess, we've talked about the Ducks here for the last half hour or so, and the stuff that we've seen and how good that they've been. And of course, there's more news, with the Ducks out there. You had Pierre LeBrun put out an article on The Athletic talking about goalie situations with other teams, and he talked about the need of Colorado, Carolina, and Edmonton with goalie help, which I laugh because Eddie, we brought up Colorado, I want to say 2 or 3 shows ago. I think you were one of the first people to bring that up. So you have that team in the mix. You have Carolina, and we recently you just saw the news about Frederik Andersen. He had a surgery. He's going to be out about 8 weeks, so they're maybe looking for help. You have Edmonton too, and they have some issues. But what do you think? We talked about Fowler. You got to get him back in the lineup, get him playing. Gibson's now back in the lineup. He's won his first 3 games back. What do you think? I know we talked about Colorado, but do you see anything here? Like LeBrun saying, one thing that I'll say real quick before I hand it over to you is that LeBrun did confirm that the team and Gibson have been working to try to find a new home. So he did confirm that, which I don't know if that was confirmed by any of the other big names before. I think Elliot Friedman mentioned it before earlier in the season, but LeBrun now confirming that again, if it wasn't already out there. So what do you think? What do you think the Ducks do with their goalie situation? You've got Dostal up there. You've been playing fantastic the whole season. Gibson's now playing fantastic. We've got a 1A, 1B situation, which you and I talked about that was going to happen. It's now happened. So what are your thoughts on Gibson and the Ducks goalie situation?
I think I've been saying this, Mike, for the last 2 seasons. That I always thought that Colorado would be a good place for Gibson to go. And they desperately needed a goalie. For 2 seasons, I've been saying they haven't had a true superstar, or not. I'm sorry, it's not superstar, but elite goalie. They've just been kind of riding off the product they have in front of their goaltenders. And right now, they're in panic mode because they're not getting any solid goaltending. If you want to make a legitimate run for the Stanley Cup, you need to get that person behind you that your team can trust. If they do fumble on plays, that you can have someone that's willing to make those big saves. I still hope it's a possible landing spot for John Gibson. I think that's a good spot for him to win a Stanley Cup. And I wouldn't mind him seeing him win a Stanley Cup with Colorado. That's like my second favorite team too. And I know the culture over there, what they built. So, yeah. The other ones that you mentioned too were Carolina and Edmonton. You mentioned Carolina with Freddie Andersen injury. Wouldn't that be a kind of a sweet surprise too, like a little reunion of both of them? Not sure how that plays out. Another harder one would be Edmonton. Edmonton, I know they have their own issues, and it's not just goaltending, but it goes for defensively too. I don't think Gibson with his 10-team no-trade list wants to go to another team that's having this kind of similar defensive issues or having a lapse in defense in front of them like the Edmonton Oilers, but who knows? And I'm not sure if Edmonton can get over that hump to be legitimate to win the Stanley Cup. I know they were close last season, but maybe I just don't want to see them get that chance. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of other teams looking for him and his services, what he can provide, and I hope it gets done. I hope this trade gets done. We get a big return because it's like every season we're talking about it, and we keep bringing it up because the news keeps popping out. And someone like credible like LeBrun, that's something that you keep an eye on because obviously those people are not just making up stories out of their ass. They actually know what's going on. And yeah, I know the Colorado Avalanche too were linked to Mackenzie Blackwood. He's been playing well with San Jose, even though San Jose has a horrible team in front of him. But yeah, I think the best spot that everyone would say right now is Colorado because they were one of the ones that kind of like panicking with their goalie situation. Their goalie situation is just really terrible right now.
Yeah, I agree with you, and we've kind of beat that one down a few times talking about Colorado. You do mention Carolina, and I just crack up because I'm like, if he goes to Carolina, and it's him and Anderson again, like holy shit, man, like that would be crazy to see them together again. But in Carolina, like that would just, I don't know, it'd be super weird because we had that, when they were in Anaheim. So But I don't put it past Carolina. I mean, look at their defense. You got a solid defense there in Carolina. I mean, Gibson can go there and really make them a Stanley Cup contender. I think if he wanted to go over there, and with the other part of this too, as we talked about in the last show, is Ramirez. The Ducks did end up putting Ramirez on waivers and trying to send him down to San Diego, and then you had Buffalo claiming him back again, so Ramirez gone. So I'm really curious to see if the Ducks would try to get a goalie out of that. Do they try to get Carolina's backup out of that? Did they send over Gibson and then get him over here? I don't know. I'm curious to see if that would be a thing or something with Carolina too. With Colorado too as well. Because I mean, you could call up Klang from San Diego and have him be in the mix. That's the other part of this that I wonder, as far as the Ducks, if they do look into this and looking into a return, are they going to want a goalie in return that can back up Dostal, since now that Ramirez has been picked off, right, and went back to Buffalo? So I'm curious to see. To me, I would think Colorado and Carolina would be the front runners. We like I said, we already talked about Colorado a couple times on the show, and now you got Carolina in there. So I'm really, really curious to see what happens with that goalie situation. Edmonton was mentioned in there too by LeBrun, but a little bit tougher situation. Obviously, they've got stuff that they're trying to solidify with the forwards and the defensemen as well. So I think they've got to look at that. Because San Diego too, the Ducks have Klang and they've got Dansk. So I mean, unless the Ducks are okay with trading Gibson and then having one of those two back up Dostal, maybe they don't try to get Georgiev or any of these other goalies that are at these other teams. I don't know. It's a very interesting situation to say the least, and the fact that now you have LeBrun saying that the Ducks are talking to Gibson, and I believe it was Freeman that said it before. You've got two well-known guys saying this, so it's a situation definitely to monitor, Eddie. And I'm with you too. I think Dostal is the future for this team. I think it is time to try to move Gibson and go on from him. He's got this year and next year, he's got till 2026, 2027 at $6.4 million. So they've talked about too that the Ducks are willing to eat some of that salary and take him on. I mean, if the Ducks are willing to retain up to that 50% that they can, I could really see them getting a quality backup, maybe some quality draft picks, or both. I think now the Ducks are a little bit more in the driver's seat, especially because, as you talked about, we mentioned Fowler getting him back in there and playing. Well, Gibson's now back in and playing, and he's been shining right now. He's winning the games, and he's doing a great job. So, I mean, his value is starting to trend upward if the Ducks do want to try to move him, Eddie.
Yeah, so you mentioned Carolina, too. I doubt they would send us over their backup. That guy Cooch, he's their goalie of the future, and he's been playing really well this season, and he's been showing that he can assume that role with the Anderson being on that 1-year contract. I wonder if imagine they'd send Anderson back to the Ducks and that full circle that comes.
Yeah,
but depending on how long he's out, I say why not bring one of the team's lower backups. You have Spencer Martin in Carolina. He's their kind of their third stream goalie. I think he can play and solidify that backup role. And also in Colorado, you have Juice. So if Colorado does trade for Gibson, obviously we'd have to eat up half the salary going back. We're going to have to do that. But we get better return for it, too. And then they can have Georgiev back up Gibson, because he could be he could steal some games, but it's always good to have the 1A, 1B option. With Juice, it just doesn't seem like that goalie that can handle that workload. It's going to be... Oh, you forgot to mention, too, Mike, one other reputable person that mentioned about these trades was Argonzo 444 mentioned he was the first one to break the Colorado rumor. So yeah, obviously it wasn't Trusty Boys, because now you have the credible big bad machines over here, kind of just echoing what I've been saying for the last 2 seasons. But yeah, I think like you mentioned too on our notes that the Edmonton will be the outlier, but you never know what other teams could sneak in there and want that backup goalie that can actually bring him to that promised land. Or I'm sorry, that starting goalie can bring them to the promised land. But like I said, I think no matter what, we're going to have to eat up his salary, at least half maybe. But we can afford it. Ducks have what I think they're have the highest cap right now in the league, or maybe like top 3 where they can afford to take on things like that. And like I've said too before, Mike, with the cap the way it is, and the Ducks have that unique situation where they have the money to spend, why not just kind of do what Arizona did now, the Utah Hockey Club, where they would just take other people's players and get assets for them and get those draft picks or even younger players that the teams can afford to give up if they want to just make those push for those rental players come trade deadline.
Yeah, and you did mention the cap space, and obviously cap friendly is out of the picture. But if you look at Puckpedia now, you have the Blue Jackets projected cap space just over $20 million. The Ducks are second at just over $19 million in projected cap space. So yeah, the Ducks have plenty of cap space. They could definitely take on part of Gibson's salary. They could take on part of Fowler's salary too if they want to make these moves. So there's definitely wiggle room there for the Ducks to do something with both of these players. And something's got to give. I really think that one or both by the trade deadline are gone. That's what I'm feeling right now. I feel like at least one of them will probably be traded. Fowler, unless he doesn't come back and isn't playing well, maybe he's not in the mix. But I would say Gibson out of the two. But the Ducks have plenty of room to work with, and maybe pulling some players like you talked about as well. So interesting situation with the Ducks. I think they're going to be in the mix. I know the trade deadline obviously is a few months away. Obviously the holiday season's upon us, then we got the new year, but come February, March, we'll see what's going on. So you've got, like you said, the Argonzo broke this one, man. That guy is, he doesn't use the trust me bro source, so you had him in there jumping on it. So I would definitely look at that. Another thing too, Eddie mentioned DraftKings earlier. I'll mention that's another sponsor that we have on the show that we're happy through the Hockey Podcast Network. And the 2024 NHL season still has that new car smell, and the action is heating up at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started at DraftKings Sportsbook. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code THPN. That's the code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
All right, and there's the little DraftKings promo in there from the Hockey Podcast Network, which we're proud to be of. And that brings us to our next thing here, Eddie. What do you got?
Yeah, it was really easy to use. When I went to go see my mom in Arizona, I jumped on the app and I was able to do some bets. I won my first bet, so I got the 150 in bonus bets, so that was cool.
Woo!
I was betting on everything though. It was just I was losing most of my bets because I was using those $25 since it was kind of free money, so I was betting on all the underdogs that would pay out the most. I bet on a random tennis match too that was an underdog, and that would have fetched me like $100. So that was kind of cool there. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Like my brother was mentioning too. It's a little fun when you put like $10, $15, $20 bets. Like nothing too crazy, but betting on a game or betting on the fights that would happen. It was really fun. And I bring up the two fights, Mike. I don't know if you watched that thing on Netflix, the Mike Tyson thing.
Yes.
I think that regardless of everything that guy Logan Paul does or Jake Paul, whatever the hell he is, I think it's all scripted. I think he's fake. He's a YouTuber doing YouTuber things. But the good thing about him is he was bringing exposure to real boxers and giving them a platform. The female fight, Mike, I don't know if you watched it, but those girls were brutal. Those girls were warriors.
Yes.
That girl's eye was gashing up, and they're telling her to stop, and she's not stopping. Like I think she should have won that fight. But that was probably one of the best fights I've seen. And I'm not a big boxing fan, so I was watching it with my brother and my stepdad. But it was just fun to see that. And those girls that should have been the main highlight. That should have been the main fight. That was just insane.
Oh, I agree. That those two ladies going at it, holy shit, man. That was some crazy shit with her whole face getting broken out and ripped up. Was crazy. And then the Mike Tyson thing, I was really disappointed, man. There's all these practice videos of him training and doing all this stuff and going crazy. And they did these 8 rounds, 2 minutes, and they're like hugging it out, barely throwing punches. You know, Mike Tyson got paid, what, I think 20 mil or whatever it was.
I thought it was 40 mil per fighter.
Was it? Whatever. He got paid a lot, whatever millions it was. And it was a joke. It was a joke. But I've always said that boxing's been rigged. I've said that for a long time. I know any of you listening can throw shit at me if you're upset by that. But I've always said that boxing's been one of the sports that I'm like, really? I just... along with wrestling too. Sorry for those of you that are big wrestling fans, but a lot of the stuff is scripted. It is. If you don't believe it, that's cool, man. You still want to watch it and you think it's a reality, cool. I mean, you do you, dude. But when it comes to boxing and wrestling, I'm just not a big fan. I just laugh at this stuff, and that fight did piss me off. I mean, I already paid for my Netflix subscription, so at least I didn't like go put a ton of money down on pay-per-view type stuff. But yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, that was frustrating. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I love Mike Tyson. I love that dude. I think he's a badass mofo. But I just the outcome of that fight, man, that was 8 rounds of complete boring. It was just a waste, Eddie. It was just frustrating.
Yeah, just like I said, what really helped it. You know what? The fight before the females too. We bet on the underdog. I totally forgot his name, but it looked like he was going to get rocked. He got knocked down the first round. And then he comes up and he shows that true fight in him that we talked about with the Ducks. It was overall good. I I was entertained by it. So it's something that we can, I can probably start watching boxing or something like that. But, Mike, 13-year-old me would have got really mad at you for calling wrestling fake because I used to think WWF at that time was real. Now it's WWE, but it was entertainment. And that's what it is, like you said, Mike. It's all entertainment. We all work and have our issues. And we want to get an escape from reality in life, so we watch sports. So, I mean, I still enjoyed it. I had fun watching it with my brother and my stepdad, so it was fun. I had a good time in Arizona, too. I got to see, I didn't know this till my stepdad told me, though, Mike, that Chris Rock, I'm Kid Rock, my bad, wrong Rock. Kid Rock lives there in Bullhead. We got to pass by his house. So that was pretty nice. It was nice hanging out with my mom and my family and my brother, so... It was a overall good experience, and I got my truck registered in Arizona, so it saves me money. So that's actually a positive too.
Yeah, and I'm with you. When I was growing up too, I did watch WWF back then before it was a WWE, and I did like it. I did watch it. It was hilarious. But a lot of it that they got things scripted out in there. I'm not saying, by the way, too, just so if you're a wrestling fan. I'm not saying that the sport is not a hard sport, that they don't get hurt and they kick each other's ass and stuff like that. They absolutely do. Wrestling is tough. It is. People get hurt. They body slam each other. They throw each other around the ring. They kick each other's butts. I mean, absolutely. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they script out some of the stuff behind the scenes, who's going to win and lose and stuff like that. And if you don't believe that, that's cool, but they really do. Sorry, they do. But it is a tough sport. So I just want to preference that before you start throwing stones and rocks at me about the WWE when it used to be the WWF. Okay.
I think we went off topic.
I know. We did. Hey, whatever. We went on a tangent, but hey, sometimes that's what you got to do. It's a little bit of entertainment. You know what I'm saying? You got to go on some tangents. We're still talking sports. It
was all scripted.
Yeah. We got 2 more segments on the show. We got this one with the Spitting Chiclets, which I got super fired up about. We're gonna talk about the stuff. I'm really not happy with them. We're gonna go on this, and then we got a little bit of league news to wrap up the show. But of course, Spitting Chiclets, they came out. They had their recent podcast. They had a short segment, about 3 minutes. And if you listen to it in the beginning, it's mainly Whitney and Biz talking about the Ducks, and they're saying that there's, quote, these rumblings that Cronin is, quote, despised by the players, that, quote, making life a living hell. It's the, quote, most dysfunctional locker room in the NHL, and all this stuff. And you listen to it, and you're like, oh my God, like all this crap, like, burn down the pond, the Ducks are going down, and all this stuff. And everybody was going nuts on social media as soon as the thing came out. I didn't have a chance to listen to it right away. I was busy, like I said, I was in training the whole week, so I had to listen to it a little bit later. And yeah, when you hear all that stuff that they're talking about, you're like, oh crap, there's all this stuff going on. And then towards the end, Biz goes, well, I don't talk to Cronin, I don't talk to the players, I don't talk to anybody in the locker room. But, those player exit interviews last year, and I think part of that he's talking about Labushkin, which we've talked about in the show before, and things going on with the Ducks then. And I mean, they go on this whole big thing, and this big rant, and I'm just like, okay, you guys said you heard some stuff, but then you said you don't talk to anybody connected to the Ducks. So I'm like, who the hell are you guys talking to? Like, I mean, you could have said a team source, a player agent, Verbeek's mom. I mean, I don't know. You could have said somebody, but you literally say you don't have anybody connected to the Ducks. So I don't know where you're hearing this from. Are you just going by these player exit interviews and Labushkin's translated interview from Russian, which we've talked about in the show before? I don't know. I just thought that was kind of weird. And of course, everybody's up in arms. I mean, the Ducks are on a 3-game winning streak. Things are going better for the team. And now this comes out, and I'm not saying Cronin's the right coach or anything like that. I'll save that till later. Eddie and I will talk about that in a minute. But just this whole part about the locker room, I just don't see it. I don't see what they're talking about. Last season, yes, we know stuff was going on. The team had a rough go about it at the end of the season. They were losing games. There wasn't a lot of motivation, and it wasn't really happy times in Duckland last season. That's not disputed. But this season, I don't see that. And I'm just going to give you kind of a brief timeline of some things that I can mention. Some of you have actually seen this stuff too for yourself. And then I'll turn it over to Eddie, and we can let him weigh in on this too. But, I went to a charity event before the season. I saw about 2/3 of the players on the team. Nobody said anything about Cronin. They did talk about how poorly they played last year. They were frustrated last season. They did want to come in and play better this season, for sure. Nobody said anything specific. Not that they wanted to or not, but again, they didn't say anything about this disdain for Cronin or how horrible he is. That was never brought up. Fast forward, you can go to FanFest. If you went to FanFest, players had a great time. If you went, they all seemed fine. I mean, again, they're not going to say anything specific about the coach there at that event, but they didn't look like gloom and doom at that event. A lot of you went to that event. You guys all saw that for yourselves. I don't have to explain that any further. Then you have this last game that they beat Chicago. You have Strome being interviewed by Allie before the game, and he's all happy and whatnot. And then you have Vetrano's in the background, thumbs up, smiling, laughing. Then you have Zegras with the photo bomb or video bomb, whatever you want to call it, and he's wearing Vetrano's helmet in there, and he comes out. And then they interviewed Zegras after the win against Chicago, and it was great. So, I mean, if it's really that bad, I don't think they'd be acting that way. And I actually reached out to some of the beat writers that go to practice and are there. You have Andrew Knoll. I talked to him. He posted a really, really good thread on X if you didn't read it. And we mentioned him earlier in podcasts before, and he said that there were issues with some of the veteran players last season not jiving with Cronin, but that the younger players did buy in, which to me sounds like a more accurate depiction of what's going on, which still could be going on today. But this, quote, mutiny that Whitney and Biz are talking about, I don't see that. I also reached out to Eric Stevens, too, and he and I talked about this. And we discussed how, hey, Spitting Chiclets, yes, they've been right about a lot of stuff. And I know a lot of you out there are like, oh, the Babcock situation and blah, 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 blah. Sure, they have been right about a lot of stuff, but they've also been wrong, too. So I kind of take what they say with a grain of salt. I mean, if the situation is this bad and it's that horrible. I mean, the way the players have been acting lately, I just don't see it. I'm not saying that it's perfect and it's all rainbows and unicorns because the Ducks have won 3 in a row. But looking at this, taking into account the last stuff that I've seen in the last about 3 months, some of my personal experiences, your guys' personal experiences, what you guys have seen on TV, I just don't see it. It's not all scorched earth and we're all going to hell and burning in a bowl of fire. I mean, I don't know. To me, I just thought it was very, very over the top. And then the latest thing, you had Pat Verbeek's son went on there and gave it to them too on X. He went on there and talked about them, saying these things and whatnot against the team. And then he says on there, he goes, this is from Kyle Verbeek, Pat's son. He says, quote, "This is some hardcore investigative hockey journalism here, fellas." And he replied to them. So you got Verbeek's son even coming in there and weighing in on this. So is everything perfect, great, rosy in Duckland? No, I don't think that. But I don't know, Eddie. Just putting all that together, stuff from the beat writer, stuff I've seen, stuff that you fans have seen too on TV or at FanFest, I just think this is very blown out of proportion, and that's the way I look at it.
Well, the Spittin' Chiclets, they're just about like a whole entertainment and entertaining. You can chalk it up as being as fake as wrestling and how the boxing gets staged sometimes or whatever. Just think of it, it's another Jake Paul kind of thing. They're there to kind of entertain us. I don't know what the hell they decided to go on a whole tangent about the Ducks, how they're not happy over there because of referencing back to one disgruntled defenseman that wasn't playing at his best. Yeah, it's just really confusing. I'm glad Verbeek's son went over there and kind of gave him his peace of mind. So good for that. And they've had Verbeek on the show before. So if you really feel that way and you want to get your sources or facts straight, why don't you just contact him? I'm sure he's not going to shy away from giving you the PC answer. He's going to, Verbeek seems like the person that's going to call it how it is. Like, hey, if you're blowing smoke, hey, what's going on? He'll say it. If you get players aren't happy, but it's like, to go out and just do this, it just makes your podcast look that much dumb, especially without proof. You're just kind of guessing because of one disgruntled employee. But like we say, we can just chalk it up. Mike, your rant that you went on was 100% spot on. I 110% agree with everything you said. But unless there's something else going on that we're missing, I mean, you can't. I mean, I'm sure we've all been in places where we hate it working, and it's you can't just kind of fake it till you make it. Like, these players wouldn't be happy in those situations. You can't just sit there and put a smile on it when you're dreading and hate the work that you do or the place where you work, your organization, or your boss. I think it's dumb. I think this team, maybe Cronin wasn't his best to start the season with all the shuffling of lines, but I mean, these are professional hockey players too. So if this were the case where these players were really disgruntled and hated Cronin because he's the big bad Cronin, then if they're really getting that rattled off one person and they really can't focus and win games because of that, then they shouldn't be playing in the National Hockey League. That's not being professional at all. You're a professional player. You adapt. You overcome. That's how you've been doing it all your life to get to this level. So I think it was just bullshit. I think it was them just trying to get more clicks and get more coverage to their page. I don't think they knew exactly what they were talking about. If they did, that they would post some credible. A credible source, or like I said before, go contact Verbeek. You've had him on the show before. He's not going to shy away and beat around the bush. He'll let you know what's up. So I think there's nothing to really read more into this. I think the Ducks are going to have their good days and bad days, and the beginning of the season wasn't the best, but we have a little bit of traction going on, and I think we can just ride off that positivity.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, the positivity that the team's going on. That's what I look at too. That's why the timing of this was kind of weird too. And if they did have people connected to the team, they could have said that. They could have said like, hey, there's a player agent that said that, someone connected to the team, a team source. They could have kept it vague. I mean, obviously a lot of the insiders aren't going to say, hey, this is my source. Frank Ricciano's mom told me that they're pissed off in the locker room. They're not going to say that. No shit. Duh. But they didn't offer up anything. Instead, they're like, oh, well, the player interviews last year. Okay, cool. That was back in what? April, May? Like, we're 6 months from there now. So where are we at now? That's what kind of bugged me with that, is saying that. And they said that, well, it didn't come from the players. And I saw someone made a comment too. They're like, well, maybe it came from the players, but they didn't want to say it came from the players. Okay, if that's true, then they're a bunch of liars then. So now they're lying. There is a situation going on, but then they're lying about the situation, which I don't see that either. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't see those guys as lying because, as Eddie said, they had Verbeek on the show. Bring him back on the show. Hey, Verbeek, what's going on? We're hearing there's issues with the coach. I mean, Verbeek, he may not tell you the full story, but he'll tell you some of it. And that goes into this whole part about Cronin being the coach, whether or not you think he's the right fit and all that stuff. Verbeek already admitted that. Verbeek was on one of the interviews saying, hey, I had to tell Cronin to tone it down. Cronin himself went on Duckstream. If you missed it, he went on there. And he, it's kind of interesting because I'm taking these leadership classes right now. Those of you that know what I do outside of work, I have been a supervisor manager for the last 3 years. And I manage and supervise a lot of people at work in a regular detail, and I also have a specialty detail that I manage a lot of people that are very patriotic people that care about this country and what's going on right now. And the reason why I bring this up is in these leadership classes that I've been taking, I just finished one this week, they talk about accountability. Well, Cronin went on Duckstream and he said, hey, I tried some things, they didn't work. I had to make adjustments myself, which is what a good leader does. You make a self-reflection, you hold yourself accountable as well as your people, and you address that. He went on there and said all these things. I think we talked about this on 2 or 3 podcasts before. Again, I don't know that he's the one that's going to get us to the playoffs. He's going to be a long-term guy for us. I don't think that's necessarily the case. Eddie and I have beaten that to a dead horse. But at least he's taken ownership of, hey, I've done these things. They didn't work out. Yeah, I tried this. I tried that. I had to adjust. You heard that also in Labushkin's interview. He talked about, hey, why are we warming up to skate, then watching video, and then going and skating again? And then they changed that. They were like, okay, let's watch video, and then we hit the ice for the rest of the day. So he did listen and change. I mean, maybe he is more old school than some of the other coaches, and obviously Verbeek is too, but he's shown that he's willing to listen and change. So those are some of the things I look at too with Cronin. Like I said, is he the answer for this team? Is he the guy that's going to get us a Stanley Cup and make us a contending team? Probably not. And what spawned this whole thing with Spitting Chiclets, like you had mentioned, Eddie, was the Montgomery thing, which we can kind of talk about the league news too in combination with this. Montgomery got let go in Boston, so now they're like, well, is Montgomery going to go to Anaheim? It was a lot of talk, and then Cronin gets booted. That's what they were talking about that in the show, and then they shifted to Anaheim and Cronin and him getting booted. So a lot of things going on there, but I give Cronin credit. I mean, he owned it. He wasn't perfect. He tried some things. They didn't work. He had to make some adjustments. So I give him at least that. Now, is he the NHL coach that's going to be the man on any team down the road or whatever? Maybe not. Maybe he's not. But as far as the situation that's going on with everything else, I think we got to give him a little bit of leeway in here, Eddie. At least he owned up to it.
Yeah, like I said, you're a professional coach. You adapt and overcome. Something's not working, then you change it. If you're too stubborn to change anything, then you know what? I'll rephrase that. I was always told by a former supervisor of mine that if you never made a mistake, you're not learning anything. And I think that Cronin learned from his mistakes, and he's changing things, and he's adapting to what the players need. Obviously, he had a lot of praise coming from the Eagles and the AHL. There wasn't any animosity or any players coming out saying that they disliked him or anything when he was part of the Colorado Avalanche organization and their AHL team. So I don't know what just sparked this all of a sudden. They don't know enough about the Ducks hockey or to even really discuss it. They rarely mention Ducks, but sometimes it's like when they do, it's something negative. So I think this is just kind of blown way out of proportion. It was surprising too. You mentioned Montgomery and Boston firing him, and everyone starts flipping out when Ducks land. Oh, we should hire him. I think I read some comments saying that if we hired him, we could make a splash for the playoffs. But it's not that simple. You can't just bring a coach and he just sprinkle some magic dust and you're automatically a playoff team. That's not how it works. It's not. It's not the video game put on rookie. It's a lot more complicated than that. And having to bring in another coach and these players to learn a brand new system, it just doesn't seem feasible to me. A coach like Montgomery has a winning record, so he can get hired from different organizations. I doubt he's going to want to come to a rebuilding Ducks team. I can tell you this, Mike. I'm not sure. I'm after speaking to you and you speaking to your sources, it's pretty. We can make a determination that there's no issues really in the Ducks locker room that's causing them to play so bad in the beginning. It's just growing pains and learning. I think the real issue that any team would have in the locker room, I think it's safe to say, is the Nashville Predators making all those big moves and then being at the bottom of the barrel this season. But I think we're good with Anaheim. I think Cronin will keep adapting and learning as we go. And hey, we're 3-0. That's something to be proud of right now in our last few games.
Yeah, I mean, and the other part that you're talking about there, Eddie, is I went and talked to Andrew Knoll and Eric Stevens, two of the guys that cover the Ducks. I mean, they're there. I mean, Eric's kind of pulled in three directions now. Unfortunately, he's got to cover the Kings and the Sharks now. But I reached out to them and asked them what they thought, and I mean, that's Spitting Chiclets. Those guys could have done that, or like you said, they could have hit it for Beak, but they didn't. So they go on this like 3-minute rant about like the Ducks locker room is hell on earth, and I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. I don't. Now, could there be some issues like Andrew talked about? Could there be some veteran players that maybe are having some concerns? Yes, I can see that. And Eddie and I have talked about this. We've both played team sports growing up in our lives, and Eddie still plays hockey right now. And yeah, maybe you've got these veteran guys that are set in their ways. They've played for several coaches and they don't agree with everything that Cronin says. That's probably true. There's a lot of players on a lot of teams, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, soccer, whatever, that don't agree with their coach 100%. That's not really anything surprising. So could there be some of that on the team? Absolutely. Of course there could be some stuff like that. But I just don't think it's like this crazy, oh my God, like we go to practice and F Cronin kind of thing. I just thought it was blown out of proportion. And then everybody went nuts on social media, of course. And I think some of you might not have listened to the whole segment, because at the end when Biz is talking and it's like, well, I didn't talk to anybody, I just listened to player exit interviews last year. Okay, dude, you just kind of disqualified yourself right there. It's like, come on, dude. Like, it's like when Eddie and I talk about stuff. We'll tell you, I talked to so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. Or I did talk to somebody that's close to the team, and they told me this, and they don't want their name mentioned. I'll at least tell you that. Yeah, I mean, and I'm not right 100%. Eddie's not right 100%, but I'll tell you what people have told me, and then I share it with you guys because it's Ducks related. And I'd be like, hey, this is what people are saying. That's what I'm being told. Is it true or not? I don't know. With these guys, like, well, I heard rumblings. Okay, cool. You heard rumblings. Shit, I hear rumblings too. Every day I start up my Mustang, when I drive to work, it rumbles in the morning. I mean, come on. Like, that's why I made that joke on X about the rumblings of the Ducks playing in Chicago. It's like, come on, guys. Like, it just frustrates me because we've got a lot of good things going with the team now. Then this comes out, and I bet the players are heard it and they're frustrated. I can tell you too right now, Ducks players, people in the organization listen to this show, and I know because they've told me, and they know what we talk about. So I would not go on here and throw out something like this with zero confirmation on anything, just to screw up the mojo. I think the mojo with this team is fantastic right now. It's going in the right direction. Let's build off of it and keep it going. Don't listen to their podcast. Just keep rolling. I think they're doing great. I can't wait to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, I don't think they're a contending team, but I think that they're improving, starting to find their game and their way. And yeah, will Cronin be the coach for the next 10 years? Yeah, probably not. He's probably not the right fit. We've talked about that ad nauseum. There's no point in going in that. But the bottom line is he's owned the stuff that he's done, and you got to give him credit for that. He's talked about not being right on some things and having to adjust and do these changes, which I think that happens with any coach. Any coach that comes into a team and it's their first year, there's gonna be this adjustment period. And I've seen it myself. The assignments that I've worked in 3 different assignments in the last 3 years being a supervisor. And even myself, I've had to adjust. It's something called situational leadership. You can have a model where you feel that, hey, this is how I'm a leader and this is what I'm going to do. But then when you go meet your people and get to know your people and figure it out, your leadership style has to adjust a little bit. Doesn't mean you change your morals, your ethics, or who you are. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's the way that you interact with people and you get them to gel together. And I think with coaches, that's a huge thing. You have to go with these players, analyze them, and what you're trying to do is get the best out of these players. You may have a certain way that you think, okay, this is going to work. This is how I'm going to get the best out of players. But then you find out that isn't the way. Maybe it works for a portion of the group, but the other portion it doesn't. And that's one key with leadership, is getting to know your people, realizing that there's different strengths and weaknesses amongst those people, pulling out the things in them that'll get them to do the best and perform the best for you. And it's not a cookie cutter. Sorry, leadership is not just like, oh, here I am, I have experience, I'm a badass, follow me because I'm cool. That's not what leadership's about. There's a lot more involved. I could go on and on about this. Like I said, I've taken a couple of courses recently about this, and I've done it for the last 3 years. I'm not perfect either. I make mistakes, but the part of it is learning, adapting, knowing your people, and then getting your people to do the best that they can. And it's very similar in sports. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get your guys to perform at the top level that they can so that the team can win. And I don't think he's perfect at it, but at least as of lately, it's starting to go in the right direction, and I'm happy with what I'm seeing lately, Eddie.
Definitely. Well said, Mike. Wow, man, he forgot to do the mic drop after that. Yeah, you touched on a good point, though. It's just the coach's job is to get the very best out of the players. Verbeek's job is to kind of get these players going, trading for the right people, building an organization that's winning. Man, I believe he can do that. I know a lot of people are on social media want Verbeek fired, want Cronin fired. Hell, they even want Wild Wing fired at sometimes because he had red eyes. But we had to just trust the process. And like I said, this is baby steps. You can't just churn a franchise around. You can't buy a winning team. Look at Nashville. It's just same thing with New Jersey a few years ago, spending all the money and getting those big name free agents. But you can't just bring in the big names. You got to bring in the right people that are going to just gel with the organization, gel with the process, trust the process, and make everyone around them better. And I think Cronin will do that with this team once they get some more traction, once they get over these baby steps and transitioning to a team where they're not a rebuild team anymore, where they're going to step on the ice knowing that each and every night they have a chance to win. Sometimes with the Ducks, it doesn't always seem that way. But I think the transition process is just, we have to be patient as fans. We can't just call for everyone's head, call everyone to be fired, and it doesn't work that way. It takes time to build a championship team. And I don't just want to make the playoffs one season, not make the playoffs next season, or have Verbeek go and try to overspend money on players that aren't going to perform, because Stamkos and Marchie, they haven't performed well at all. It would have been nice to have Stamkos on our team, because I am a hockey fan first and foremost. I love the league. I follow these players. I love the players too. But it's just sometimes being in an organization that long, like Stamkos, it's hard to gel and with different players, different systems. So I guess what we have to do is just trust the process.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, we can do like my other team. We can do like the Penguins. We can say, hey, everybody's gone except for Crosby. I mean, maybe the Ducks could do that. Hey, we're going to keep Gudas, but all the rest of you guys come, February, March, I don't know what's going to happen to you. I mean, I'm serious. I don't know what is going on with Pittsburgh. When I saw them post that on social media, I was like, whoa, what is happening with the Penguins? I mean, you want to talk about some crazy shit. I mean, some Duck fans, some of you might like that. You might want the Ducks to post, okay, guys, everybody is available to be traded except for Gudas come the trade deadline. I mean, you'd be like, what the hell? So, I don't think our situation is as bad as some people are alluding to it, even outside the Spitting Chiclets guys. I just don't see it as bad. I guess one other little thing, too, on the league news to talk about.
Mike,
yeah.
Since you mentioned Pittsburgh, yeah. I want to just throw a quick question out to you. Who on the roster would you mind getting? If they're in a big fire sale and they're willing to trade anyone but Crosby, who do you think would be a good fit for the Ducks?
Oh man, that's.
I'll go first. I'll go first real quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll spit out Michael Bunting. I know he plays with that grit and that little sandpaper that you want, but he can provide offense. Obviously, having a really terrible start to the season, but just like a lot of the people in the Pittsburgh organization, and I can throw this out too because everyone always gets too bent or gets all weird when talking about Pittsburgh because John Gibson's from Pittsburgh. I think he's from the area, so people always think he's going to be traded over there. But they need help in the goaltending department too. But I doubt Gibson is going to be wanting to go from one losing team to another. And I guess reading too, I forgot the source that pulled this up that the Penguins aren't going to be committed to a full rebuild until Crosby retires. That was from Darren Dreger that stated that. I think it's kind of selfish, Mike. As an organization, yeah, Crosby's done a lot for their team and captained them to winning numerous Stanley Cups. I wonder why that Ducks get a lot of hate on Spittin' Chiclets because Ryan Whitney's probably still bitter and sour about being traded to the Ducks and watching Kunitz win all his Stanley Cups where he could have won. But, yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of weird that the Penguins won't do that. It's just I don't think one player is big enough for an entire team. You got to put a winning product on the ice. But yeah, back to my original thing before I got off topic. But yeah, I would throw Michael Bunting out there, and then another player too. Oh, I'll let you go. See what player you have in mind, Mike.
Well, I mean, there's a handful. Obviously, Malkin comes to mind. I mean, if he's available, and Erik Karlsson. I mean, I'll take those guys. Either one of those guys.
Oh, Erik Karlsson will be. You know what? We can make that trade, and we can afford his salary because he's not playing well either, and we can get some return for that. But
yeah, send Fowler and somebody over there, and we'll take Erik Karlsson.
And watch.
I doubt that would happen, but
and watch Fowler go win 3 cups with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, you got those. I mean, a little bit. You mentioned Bunting. You got Brian Rust on there too. I mean,
that's a good one.
He's not a bad guy. He's not if you're not looking at these top players, you got former Ducks on there, which I laugh. You got Marcus Pettersson and you got Rickard Rakell, which I doubt they would come back. But I mean, Rakell and Crosby are both leading the team right now with 7 goals. So there you go. I mean, you've got some guys on there you could bring over. For sure, that'd be crazy too if the Ducks did start making some trades. If they sent Gibson and Fowler to Pittsburgh, and then we end up getting like Malkin and Bunting and Rust and Puljujarvi. I mean, it's just this crazy. Could you imagine this crazy mega trade? We will send Fowler and Gibson to Pittsburgh. They send us Malkin and Rust or Bunting or whatever, and I mean, we're making this shit up. We're getting delirious now. But
it's always fun.
I mean, it is. It's fun. That's why we talk about random shit on here. I mean, that's the point of the show, right? Is to have some fun. And these are my 2 favorite teams, right? I like the Penguins too, as some of you know, and some of you give me crap for, which I don't mind. I like the Bird teams. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting situation. This trade deadline coming up. We talked about watching Colorado and watching Carolina and Edmonton, obviously us, the Ducks, Pittsburgh, another team. I mean, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff coming up. It's going to be interesting. I guess the one other little just thing kind of to wrap up the show I did want to talk about, I was kind of bummed, is the whole Ovechkin thing, Eddie. He was on pace to pass Gretzky this season, then he got hurt, and now he's going to be out over a month, it looks like, and that's just unfortunate. I mean, Ovechkin has been on fire in Washington. And I mean, if you're a hockey fan, I mean, man, wow, it's got to hurt your heart a little bit just to see Ovechkin go down like that, fractured bone in his leg and whatnot. Man, it's just tough. It's tough. I really want to see him beat Gretzky's record.
Yeah, same here. It's unfortunate. People were all bent out of shape too. His first 3 games, he didn't have a goal. Then he starts getting one. But yeah, you're right. He's been going completely off. Got the hat trick against Vegas, another 2 goals against Utah. Then unfortunately he goes down and injured. And I really think that he could have beat Gretzky's record this season. Who knows? He could probably just go off and start scoring in tangent again and get that record. But yeah, it's more realistically it's going to come next season. I think he can, coming back, he can score at least 15, 20 goals and get that number down. So next season he comes, he can get that record. You know what, Mike? I do hope he does get the record. and scores in Anaheim, because I would love to be there to see that. I think that'd be awesome, breaking the record and seeing him. I was there when he got his, I want to believe it was his 500 goal. No, I'm sorry, I lied. I was there for him to get the 500 mark goal, but he didn't score that time in Anaheim, so he didn't break the record. But yeah, it's a great thing that he's done for hockey. And like I said, if you're a hockey fan, you have to cheer for him. You have to, even Gretzky. I read an article too that sometimes when he's on a drought, that Gretzky will text him like words of motivation, because Gretzky wants that record broken. And who better yet to do one of the faces of the National Hockey League for years. So it's going to be great when he finally breaks that record. We're celebrating, so I'm glad that we can be here to see that hopefully soon.
Yeah, and you mentioned that about Gretzky too. What a class act, man. You know, like you set a record in sports for whatever, something phenomenal, right? And then you got a guy that's trying to beat you, and maybe there's a little bit internal where you're like, man, I hope I hold on to that record and whatnot. But the fact that, you know, he's encouraging him and whatnot, and like, hey, you beat my record. I mean, that just is a testament to Gretzky, and the person that he is. So that's amazing. And yeah, it would be cool to see it happen in Anaheim, which now it's kind of, with this, it's looking kind of rough, but we'll see what happens. I think he's going to break it. It might have to wait another season, unfortunately. One last question here before we wrap up, Eddie. We had Chris J. Campos asked, if you had to buy one Ducks jersey, who would you buy? And he limited it to 4 people: Carlson, Cutter, Zellweger, or Minty. So if you're buying a Ducks jersey, you're customizing it, which one of these 4 are you going to get?
I would probably get Minty, or oh man, that's a tough one.
It is.
Let me see. I'll let you answer that first. Let me just ponder on that question real quick.
It is a tough one. I looked at that too, and I was like, man, and this is the funny thing. I don't buy player jerseys.
Same. Anymore.
I don't. Yeah, a lot of people, if you know me, I don't. The only one I have, you could probably guess, Eddie, who it is.
Gudis.
Teemu Selanne.
Oh, Selanne.
No. Yeah. No, the better half, she has Gudis. That's her favorite player, so she has that jersey. But for me, the only one I do have is Teemu Selanne for the Ducks. That's it. That's all I got. I like to just buy blank jerseys. I have a couple of the Ducks and Pucks, obviously themed ones, but I think for me, of these, if I had to get one and go with it, I think I would go with Zellweger. I think that's the guy that I would go with. But it's not an easy decision. I mean, I would be happy with any one of these 4 guys, Eddie. But I think if you told me, hey, you got to pick one, as Chris asked us, I think I would go with Zellweger. That's the one that I would go with. And man, it's like, this is like splitting hairs between these 4.
Oh, I know. There's no wrong answer. But I would pick Minty. I do love his play, but I'm picking him for a different reason. His jersey number is 34. That's my goalie number when I played in net, was 34. So I did that because Patrick Wall was like one of my favorite players growing up. He's 33. Obviously, I took the single digit, and then my hockey numbers when I play out is 44. So I just kind of combined those things. Yeah, that's a good question, though. Like you said, there's no wrong answer. I think we have one more question, too, before we wrap up the show, Mike, if you want to go ahead and read off that one.
Oh yeah, we have, and it's a long IG name, but it's Ananantha Rananam. Asked about our plans for Thanksgiving. Also, I want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving. That's coming up here in the next week. I hope that you and your family have a happy and safe holiday wherever you celebrate it. We've kind of talked about this early in the show, but we'll finish off with this. I will be in Arizona with some family. I will be at the Duck game on that Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, and then obviously Eddie will be at the one against the Kings on Black Friday, and then Eddie and I will be together for the one on Ottawa on Sunday. So a little bit of action there. So we'll both be at the games, just kind of a mix, but I will be out there Thanksgiving through either Saturday or Sunday. I'm not sure when I'm going to come back, but definitely I'll be back in time for when you and I go to the game on Sunday. But what are you doing? I know you're going, obviously, to the game on Black Friday. What are your plans that weekend besides that?
Well, we're doing a little Friendsgiving this Saturday with some of our close friends, and we're kind of doing that with my brother and everyone. that's going to be kind of fun. And my mom's coming down from Arizona. My mom and my stepdad are coming down either Tuesday or Wednesday, so they're going to spend Thanksgiving with us. I have another friend too, my friend Lauren. She went to middle school, high school with her too. She's coming down, so I'm taking her to the game on Black Friday. She lost her father, and it was the 1 year anniversary. So I know she's going through a difficult time. I know how that is. So I'm glad that you gave me those tickets, Mike, and I'm glad that she's coming. Or a time where I can take her to the game and she can show her a good time, and it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been to a Black Friday game in a few years, but yeah, that's pretty much wraps up my thing. Just gonna spend time with my family, go to the hockey games with my good friends, and yeah, I just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. I'm thankful. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my brother. Like living with my brother, it's always a blessing to have him in my life, and for him and I we can lean on each other for those moments that we need each other. And I'm really thankful for you, Mike. Thankful for being part of the show too. You're like my brother too, so I love you, man, and thankful for all that. Thank you for everything you've done for me too.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny starting this. God, it's been over 10 years now, and the other thing I forgot to mention. This is the 300th episode of the podcast, which is crazy to think about. It kind of averaged about, I guess, 30 shows a season, maybe a little bit less as of lately, but started this a while back, and have met a lot of amazing people. And I remember you reaching out to me, telling me about being a veteran and being in the military, and then me telling you about my family, because my dad served in Vietnam, and then 3 out of my 4 grandparents served in World War II. And I work with a lot of veterans at work too as well. So it just felt like you and I clicked, and I feel the same way. I feel, you're family to me. You feel like my brother too. I love you, man. We hang out and bullshit, and we go to games
and bullshit
crack
more.
up and bullshit more, and drink $20 beers and whatnot. But I feel the same way, and I'm very, very blessed. Like you said, I'm very thankful that I have my better half. That I don't know where I'd be without her, because I've been through some rough times before in the past, and I have a really great crew of people that I work with in my real job. And I'm very, very thankful for my friends and family. I'm thankful for all you guys that listen out there too. I mean, it's been crazy. I started out just kind of writing some articles, and then selling some t-shirts, and then doing a podcast, and here we are a decade later. I never imagined this being anything. It's not a super popular, big time show or whatever, but I know a lot of the Ducks fans listen and hit us up when we're at games and stuff, and I appreciate the support, and I love just talking about hockey and the sport and sharing it with all you guys. So just like Eddie said, I hope you guys all have a happy, safe holiday. Thanksgiving, we'll be back after that. We'll talk more Ducks hockey. We got, of course, then the holidays coming up with Christmas and New Year's and whatnot. So that's all I got, Eddie, unless you got anything else. But that'll kind of wrap. It'll just wrap up the show. And if you want to check out any of our gear, tpnhockey.com, we've got stuff on there. You guys know where we're at in social media. And again, appreciate all your support. And let's go Ducks.